And welcome, Finger Lakes basketball fans, to another edition of the Upstate Hoops podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. It's February 27th, 2014. This is our 15th episode of the 2013-14 season. Just one left. Next Thursday night, our season finale. And we're coming at you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. I'm Jim Sinacropi up here in the studio with my co-host Matt Verkey, and Sectional Championship Weekend is set. Three Wayne Finger Lakes teams are still alive, as Clyde-Savannah, Bloomfield, and Geneva will play for sectional titles on Saturday and Sunday. Also, we'll talk about all the semifinal action from the past 2 days and take a look at the outstanding competition in the girls' sectional brackets. The Upstate Hoops podcast is brought to you by Generations Bank. Generations is a service for over 140 years. Visit them online at mygenbank.com and check out their mobile banking app in the iPhone or Android app stores. And also by Red's Place, serving great lunches in downtown Seneca Falls. Come down and watch all the big games on one of their 10 flat-screen TVs and check them out online at men'shalloffame.com. And Seneca Meadows Landfill, responsible waste management for the next generation. See how they do it by watching their videos at senecameadows.com. Well, Verk, welcome back to the show for our second to last time. And we certainly caught up a lot of high school basketball action over the past few days. We had Lions, Clyde, and Waterloo. Then we had Batavia, Newark. We had Geneva, Northeast, Northwest Prep, and a lot of good games. I mean, what's your overall take of what we saw up in the Big House on Tuesday night, that A2 semifinal doubleheader?
Yeah, two obviously highly contested games, very close games. Geneva went to overtime, and a game in which Newark, I'm sure, would like to have that second half over again. You know, they only scored 13 points in the second half. End up losing by a few points, and only three players from Batavia scored, and one of those guys had 2 points. Yeah. So basically, two people scored all the points. And, a tough way to go out. They just couldn't find the range. Had some nice looks at the end there and just couldn't throw it in the bucket. Yeah,
it was relentless full-court man-to-man defense all day like Newark, just like you'd expect. And they just couldn't stop Justice Fagan, point guard for Batavia, had 28 points. And the other guy you mentioned that had 15 points, 6'7", center Jeff Redband, although he was playing on the perimeter a lot, and it was, they had 45 points total, and like you said, 43 points from those two guys.
Yeah, typically I think if you think you're going to hold the team to 45 points, you're going to win that game. And the offense kind of let them down a little bit. Their defense was solid, just as it has been all year. They just really couldn't get anything going offensively.
Newark got most of their offense from Jamie Rosser. He had 17 points and 9 rebounds, especially early on. He scored most of those points in the first half. Then he fouled out late, which just added to their scoring woes.
Yeah, they had a tough shooting night. Nobody really shot it well for Newark. They struggled from the arc. Tyler Collins missed a couple shots that he usually makes. He had the big bucket late on that spin move to cut it to 1. Newark had a chance there. They had a breakout with 30 seconds to go and couldn't convert the layup, and
that was a nice floater in the lane for Collins. He's only a junior, so he'll be back. And it's tough because this was a real promising class for Newark. They had a great season, Finger Lakes East champs, but I know Coach Bob Havrilla wanted a sectional title to go with for Micah Wright and.
Yeah, I think that's what you play for is sectional titles, really, and they're one game away from playing for that title, and they seem to match up with Batavia quite often in sectionals, and Batavia got the best of them this year.
Also in semifinal action, going back to Monday night, Bloomfield Geneva go to overtime, 64-61. Bloomfield wins, and Ty Kloss had 26 points and 5 assists. Alex Flattery had 15. Brian Doolin had 16 rebounds. Dylan Tayan had 12. And then for Gananda, it was Eric Mucci leading with 19. So Gananda's season ends at 12-9. Bloomfield plays for a sectional title at 3 o'clock on Saturday in the Big House. And, great game. We weren't there, but from what I heard, that was a fantastic ball game.
Yeah, Gananda beat, Minders in the 4-5 game. by 4 points, and they moved on and gave Bloomfield all they could handle. Bloomfield was able to pull it out and advance to the final.
And then we had another Wayne Finger Lakes team in action from Wayne County. Also in C1, it was ER, the 2 seed, taking on Early College, and Early College gets a 3.52-49 win and it came, with a 25-footer at the buzzer, so came down to the wire.
Tough way to go out, sectionals, and it appeared that ER had the ball at the end, and they couldn't convert. Went to a jump ball, and Early College had the arrow, and they tossed one in.
So Phineas Jocks with 12, Trey Miller with 11, Justin Reho with 11 as East Rochester season comes to an end. And we would have liked to seen that Bloomfield East ER game, but instead it'll be Bloomfield versus Early College. And then moving ahead to C2, this was the game that I called with Kevin Korzaneski in Waterloo. Kind of similar feel last year when Minders played Clyde that was actually a state qualifier game,
right.
But real interesting to see these great rivals play on a neutral court. Clyde got the better alliance twice this year. The first time was a 1-point win, and in this case, it was a 47-43 Clyde win in a game that Cam DeSanto didn't play, and then also we knew going in that Damon Hunter was out for the year, and a couple other guys for Zach Young's Lions were out, so really going into it, even without DeSanto playing, I think the feeling was that it was going to be a pretty easy win for Clyde. But DJ Long and Damian Scott played a great game in their last game wearing the Lions uniform. Just came up a little short. Cam DeSanto dressed, and the rumor was that if they need him, they were going to play him. He hurt his ankle in the first round game, but we never saw him, and honestly, it couldn't have been too much closer in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So hopefully Cam will be better on Saturday at 1 o'clock when they take the floor.
Yeah, they're going to need him against Calmum. Calmum's got some big guys, and Will Van Auken had 31 points and 19 rebounds for Calmum, and their semifinal win. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you were at that game. A little disappointing in that neither team at full strength, but it sounds like it was a great game, and kind of what we thought with Clyde advancing. It was a little tighter than I think most people expected, like you said, but Clyde advanced, and hopefully Cam can get that ankle all better, and they got a big game Saturday afternoon against a solid 19-1 Calmum team.
Yeah, with some size. Like that's the thing, and we'll talk about that matchup in a little bit. Clyde 20-0 now, and in the absence of DeSanto, it was their other two of their big three, Joe Maine Bogan with 20 points and Joe Faneuil with 16, and those guys were both absolutely fantastic and really the difference in that ball game. Then also in C3 on Monday night, Naples season came to an end. They were the 5 seed. They lost to the 1 seed Perry. A little overmatched, 61-30. So the Big Green Machine season ends at 14-7. Then moving ahead to Tuesday night, we saw Chris Dean's career come to an end in Class B2 as the 2 seed Leadership Academy beat 3 seed North Rose Wolcott 61-52. Jake Stevenson led North Rose with 24. Their season ends at 14-6, and then we were kind of pulling for them to maybe make their way to the big house, especially from the expectations for that club at the beginning of the year, to see them be one game away from the big house and finish in third place or second place in the Wayne County League. Didn't they finish in second?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, so a great season for them, and would have liked to see him pull that one out. But
I think ER finished in second. They were third.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about ER. So they were third. Still, exceeding expectations this year, and maybe a team to watch next year, even without Dean coming back. So now we move to the A2 games. We just talked about the Batavia-Newark game, 45-41. The other game, Northeast-Northwest College Prep against Geneva. And going into the night, we were looking at maybe an all Finger Lakes East final, Newark-Geneva. But heading into late in this Geneva game against Northeast-Northwest, it was looking like maybe they'd get shut out. But Brian Miller's squad pulls it out in overtime in the waning hours of the evening. we called that game, Verk. You and I called it, right?
Yep.
And yeah, we got out of the big house at 11:50 a.m. and they had shut all the lights were all off. It takes us a little longer to clean up our equipment than the radio guys, but But yeah, great ball game. I don't think that Geneva played very well. I hadn't seen Northeast Northwest to see how they played, but I know Geneva can play better as a whole. But one guy who was phenomenal was Akia Jackson, 24 points and 6 rebounds, and Terrell Johnson also a solid game. And then Sims came through in the end after struggling most of the game.
Yeah, Akia seemed to be in the right place at the right time a lot. He made some nice. He had a couple breakouts and made. He kept him in the game with his offense. Obviously, Sims really struggled. His 3-point shot wasn't coming close, and Geneva as a team just really, really struggled to shoot the ball there. 1 for 18 from the 3-point line. They had some really good looks early and just couldn't knock them down. But I give Geneva a lot of credit. They really. They clawed and fought, and they did everything they could to stay in this game, and they were able to pull it out at the end. Johnson got in a little foul trouble, and he sat, and they got down 6. And I think it was about the 4-minute mark. Coach Miller called timeout, put Johnson back in. And they scored 6 straight points, and they were able to pull it out. Just a really wild game kind of at the end. A lot of stuff going on, some turnovers, and some crazy shots, and a lot of stuff going on at the end of that game. But, I give Geneva a lot of credit going to overtime without Johnson and who was it, Douglas that fouled out also? Didero. Okay, so they're down 2 starters, going to overtime. Frankly, I a little nervous, and, the rest of those guys stepped up and, they kind of clawed and fought and got the win.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Sims Jr. really doing not much during the regulation, ends up with 10 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, having a great overtime period. And the other guy for Geneva that in every game I've seen has been the key guy down the stretch is Steven Dolgus. And he buried 2 key free throws in that game. He handled the ball well most of the night and ended up with 7 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. And, you think about the big 3 of Jackson, Terrell Johnson, and Sims. Dolgus obviously is key to that club.
Yeah, no doubt. Those guys are going to get some looks because teams are going to key on some of those other big 3 guys, and they got to knock them down. And Douglas was able to knock down some free throws. None of those guys shot particularly well, obviously, but it was a interesting game. Torrey Wright from Northwest College Prep had 32 points, 12 rebounds. And for the most part, Geneva held their own on the boards, and we talked about it during the broadcast. I thought Prep's man-to-man pressure defense really bothered Geneva for a while, but Geneva was able to run and get a couple backdoor cuts as Prep was overplaying them, which I think was, pretty much won the game. We get a couple easy layups, kind of loosen things up a little bit.
Yeah, it was interesting talking to Brian Miller after the game. He was glad to see them go to man-to-man and stick to man-to-man because, while it was effective for a while, they ended up getting some backdoor cuts on those guys. And I
didn't think – I thought – Prep's man-to-man bothered them pretty good.
Yeah.
But I guess the positive side is, in the zone they're getting wide open looks. When Prep was playing zone, they're wide open. They just couldn't make them. So against that man-to-man, they were able to run a couple of their, Coach Miller said, their bread and butter sets, and they worked. A couple backdoor plays and stuff like that obviously you don't get against the zone. So I guess when you're not hitting from 3, you're almost happy to see that man-to-man defense.
And finally on that game, we got to see 2 of the best dunks of the year. Terrell Johnson Jr. out on the run and the fast break, jams at home with a left-handed jam over Malik Wilkinson, and then about 2-3 minutes later, Torrey Wright, who had a huge game, 32 points, 12 rebounds for Northwest, does almost an identical dunk, and I think that was over the top of either Jackson or Sims. I can't remember who it was over, but somebody got posterized.
Yeah, I was impressed with Johnson's, off his right foot with his left hand was pretty impressive. Just something I didn't expect at the time for him to throw that one down. But, obviously a nice play, and that got Geneva fired up. That's kind of when I thought Geneva was going to pull away. And,
right.
And then Prep hung in there and got some baskets, and, they definitely made a game out of it.
Well, we're going to step aside for 60 seconds, hear from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to talk about the girls' team still in action and then preview the games in the Big House this weekend.
We hold on to the things that really matter. Welcome to Generations Bank.
Hi, I'm Jody Torrio. If you're like me, you've got stuff lying around the house that you want to recycle, but you're just not sure how, like broken toasters, vacuum cleaners, or microwaves. At Seneca Meadows, we have a drop-off for those. Bring in anything with a cord, and we'll make sure it's recycled properly through our partnership with 2TRG. It's that easy.
And welcome back inside the FingerLakes1.com studios. Girls teams in Wayne Finger Lakes doing great. I mean, we got Wayne playing Geneva for the Class A title, and then Mid-Lakes with a huge upset over Palmac, because we're always anticipating this Waterloo-Palmac final, but it's going to be Mid-Lakes-Waterloo for the B2 title, and then Minders, Lions, South Seneca, and Romulus all going for sectional titles.
Yeah, we got 5 teams from the Finger Lakes East still alive, and obviously you just mentioned we were looking forward to that Palmac Waterloo replay, but Mid-Lakes sprung an upset and sending Vanderwall and the Palmac Red Raiders home. It's interesting in that Palmac had beaten Waterloo twice during the regular season, so I think Waterloo really wanted a piece of them, but maybe they're happy not to have to face them in the long run.
Sure.
And then we got the Minders girls who came in 3-15.
What a great job by Jerry Anderson.
Yeah, very similar to last year when they were 4-14 last year. And we kind of talked about with the Minders boys a lot, but playing in the Finger Lakes East on the girls side, obviously with the success that all these schools, we got Wayne and Geneva in for the Class A title. So there's some big schools who have gone a long way in that league, and Minders got beat up all year long. They took a beating, but they are competitive in a lot of those games, and come sectional time, now we're playing some schools that are our size and that we can match up with athletically and height wise, and the Miller girl, who Coach Anderson brought up as an 8th grader, has really contributed a lot. I think she had 15 points the other night and like 10 or 12 in the fourth quarter.
As an 8th grader.
As an 8th grader, she's a big girl, and she's able to get some rebounds and just brings a different dimension that they haven't had all year. They'll have their hands full, obviously, with a strong Avon team, but I like Minders to win that game. They did it last year, and I don't see why not this year.
Yeah, back-to-back sectional titles. Different coaches, though. So
different
Jerry
coaches,
Anderson, his first year, like I said, great job, keeping that team focused all year, despite, really struggling through the first 3 quarters of the season.
Sure.
And now
he kept them going. You build on that, and he did a nice job of keeping the girls, keeping their spirits up. And, you got a Romulus team was struggled in the semis a little bit, and which was kind of surprising me.
I thought
they're going to roll a little bit more. They're playing for a title. South Seneca's playing for a sectional title. Lions is playing for a sectional title out of Wayne County. It's you can't say more. Wayne Finger Lakes girls really showed up in sectionals this year.
So good luck, ladies, this weekend. Let's see how many sectional titles we can bring home for the old Wayne Finger Lakes. Now, not so many teams in action for the boys in the Blue Cross Arena this weekend. We're doing a couple games for you live. We're doing the Clyde game, Clyde-Cal-Mum, 1 o'clock Saturday. Going to be Zach Young and Dave Barnick on the call. Interesting to have Zach on that call being the Lions head coach. He certainly have a lot of great insight on Clyde. And then,
sure.
Dandy Dave Barnick on the play-by-play back in the big house for the first time in about 15 years. And then we got second game, Geneva, 5 o'clock on Sunday. And that's the same Batavia team that beat Newark. Going to be a great ball game. And we got Brendan Harrington, and you're going to call that game too, Verk.
Yeah, that's a great matchup. Geneva's they're led by all. They got a bunch of seniors. Batavia's led by their senior point guard that we talked about, and then they're kind of young after that. They got a couple sophomores that play a lot. Red Band's a sophomore. He brings good height, but he's 6'7", but really plays outside and shoots a lot. It's gonna be an interesting matchup. I think Geneva should really get them on the glass, I think, and I think if Geneva controls Justice Fagan.
Yeah, what do you do if you're Brian Miller? Now, Newark seemed like they had a different guy guarding him every possession, man-to-man, Bob Havrilla for Newark. What do you think Brian Miller's going to do to contain him?
Geneva's going to play a lot of 1-3-1. That's one way to cut down on penetration. Just you can kind of contain them, kind of corral them a little bit that way, and two guys can keep an eye on them a little bit better. But Geneva's got some good athletes who can match up with him. I thought he kind of hurt Newark a little bit was when Batavia would set that high pick and Newark kept switching it, and they'd have about equal heighted guys switching there. And then the Batavia coach made a nice adjustment, and he took his smallest player, who Newark's smallest guy was guarding, and then they were still switching it, and Fagan got in there and used his size a little bit, I thought, to convert some layups. But he hit some big shots. The kid just had a tremendous game. But, I like Newark. I think, outside of Fagan, I think man for man, or Geneva, I should say, Geneva matches up pretty well with them. Geneva brings a little bit more athleticism, I think, than they got. But, Fagan's always the wild card. I was really impressed with the way he controlled that game and remained calm, and he hit some huge shots for them. So if Geneva can hold him to 20, I think they have a good shot to win.
And I think, too, something on Geneva's side is that they shot so poorly the first time out. They're coming back into the arena. They're going to be a little more used to it. So between Jack Wallwork, Dolgus, Doduro, Sims, I think we're going to see them shoot a little better than 1 for 18 from 3. And I predict a Geneva victory in that one.
Yeah.
Now, the other game's a lot more interesting to me. The Clyde-Cal, well, they're both really interesting, but the Clyde-Cal-Mum game, this is the first time that Clyde's going to play a team that maybe has as much height as they do, and they're deep, and they're 19-1 playing out of the Livingston County Division II.
Yeah, I haven't seen Cal-Mum. I've heard good things about them. Looking at some of their stats, they got some guys who put up big numbers. Kid had 31 and 19 the other night. I think hopefully Cam's full strength, because obviously they're going to need every bit of his 6'4", 6'5" frame out there to he does a lot just besides the scoring and rebounding.
Great passer.
I think he's their leader, and him and Bogans are really just used to playing with each other. Obviously all those kids are used to having DeSanto out there, so takes away a lot when he's not out there. So I think he'll be all right. I know you said he warmed up the other night and looked all right and stuff, and
he's dunking in warm-ups.
Yeah, so I think that was an extra precaution. Tape that thing up and get out. Obviously at this point, nothing to lose. You know what I mean? So yeah. I look for him to come out and play well.
Big court, too, with depth being an issue for Clyde. Another thing take away from that game in Waterloo on Monday was looking at without DeSanto, Cal Felker starts. And the only guy they really used off the bench was Jarrett Murray. He's a freshman. So Clyde's 6'7" deep. And it's big court, the Blue Cross. If Cam's ankle acts up, that could be an issue. But even so, I still look to guys like I want to see how Joe Faniel and Joe Main Bogan do, on a big stage. And then I'm sure Cam's DeSanto's just itching to get back on the court. So 2 great games there, three great games as we look at the Class C1. At 3 o'clock at the Blue Cross, Bloomfield and Early College. Early College 10-10, playing a lot of city teams. Bloomfield 18-2 out of the Finger Lakes West. It's hard to say what to expect out of this one, Burke.
Yeah, obviously I haven't seen either team play, so I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I'm sure Bloomfield played University Prep this year, and UPrep beat them. Mm-hmm. So, they've seen some of that city-type ball where, it's up and down, stuff like that. So, at least going in, they know kind of what to expect a little bit. But, that should be a great game.
So, the other finals at the Big House, Class C3's got Wheatland Shiloh versus Perry at 11 a.m. on Saturday. The D2 final, RCMCS versus Houghton, 5 o'clock at the Blue Cross. D1, Jasper Troutsburg versus Notre Dame at the Blue Cross at 7 p.m. Class AA, Fairport Athena. It's a pretty big game, 9 o'clock.
So, yeah, that should be a great game.
And then Sunday, we got things kicking off at 1 o'clock with Edison Tech versus East. That's a 6 seed Edison Tech against a 1 seed East. An A1, B2 final that we had hoped North Rose Wolcott would be in is Hornell versus Leadership Academy. And that's at 3 o'clock. And then at 7 o'clock, you got Franklin Charlotte. And that'll be your B1 final. And then we'll have a whole slate of sectional championships, and we'll move on to the state qualifiers and then eventually state. So Verk will be back next week at 9 o'clock on Thursday for our final episode of the season. It'll be 16, and man, it just kind of flies by, right?
It does, and good luck to all the Wayne Finger Lakes teams still out there, boys and girls, and bring us home some championships.
So that about wraps it up for this week's edition of the Upstate Hoops Podcast. As I mentioned, we'll be back next Thursday night for our season finale. If you get a chance to get up to the Blue Cross Arena this weekend, it would be well worth the trip to see some great basketball. If not, follow the action live on FingerLakes1.com. Dandy Dave Barnick and Lions head coach Zach Young got the call in the Clyde-Cal Mum game at 1 o'clock Saturday. And then the Bren Zone, Brendan Harrington and Matt Verke will call the shots for the Geneva Batavia game on Sunday at 5. So for our live viewers, the Upstate Orange podcast is up at 10 p.m., so keep it here at FingerLakes1.tv. And thanks for joining us. For my co-host Matt Verke, our producer Jeremy Hunt, I'm Jim Sinacropi. Good luck, Clyde, Bloomfield, and Geneva.